Actually, first I must share with you that I am here more by fluke than by design of the conference. I'm here in Delhi on a totally different mission. I came to assist my son and his wife when they were going to be blessed by their first child. And their first child was born on 14th May in Delhi. And Sutapa called me asking, trying to brush up information. And casually I mentioned that I'm here in Delhi. She just pounced on me and said that I have to come and it is very necessary. And I thought that yes, it is necessary that the plight of women in Chhattisgarh undergoing this torture and this suffering be shared by a wider audience, and that is why I am here, and I am very happy to be here. I have lived and worked in Chhattisgarh for more than 40 years, and I will focus only on my experiences. That's what I have been told, because I am really without any documentation for this conference. I will share with you my first experience way back in '82, when I read in the newspaper that a woman in Abhanpur block was witch hunted by the entire village, was beaten, and all kinds of atrocities committed on her. So our women's organization, a delegation, went to that village the next morning, and we wanted to meet that woman. She was about in her late 50s, a widow and mother of 3 sons. She had come to that village as a child bride, and the story she told us that now it is her sons who have raised the first finger against her and called her a witch or practicing witchcraft. But the real reason is that they want her house and her land on which she inherited from her husband. We wanted to have a meeting in the village with the women and discuss the issue. We spent the entire day in the village, knocking at every door, asking the women and the girls to come for a meeting. We sat there till almost 5 o'clock in the evening, and nobody came for the meeting. We were waiting in the Panchayat Bhavan, and finally in the evening the Panchayat leaders of the village, they came with a group of young boys and their clique. The women were standing on the periphery, quiet, their heads covered, their mouths covered, and it is the Panchayat leaders who told us to leave the village and that they would take no guarantee for our safety. I was stumped because I was new to that village, or rather my organization and members were new to the village. We did not know anyone there. So we said, yes, we are ready to leave the village, but I would like to ask this woman as to what she would like to do. And when I asked her in front of everyone, as I told her the purpose of our visit and asked her what she would like us to do, without saying a word, she followed me outside the village. She walked with me. She decided that she is going to leave the village with a complete stranger, and honestly I was stumped because I didn't know that woman, I didn't know what to do with her, we had not planned anything like that, but I was forced to reflect that here is this woman who is ready to walk out of the village which she called her home for so many years. This was one of my first experience, and I realized that we of course took the legal action, legal course that was open to us. We registered an FIR with the police, who initially refused to register the complaint, but because it was organizational effort, Chhattisgarh Mahila Jagriti Sangathan, they were forced to write the complaint, register our complaint, and we realized that more than 20 days have passed and they have taken no action. We sent them reminders, we telephoned them, but their attitude, the whole attitude of the police was that of ridiculing us as to why are we pursuing a case like that. And finally, we decided to take matters in our own hand, and we gherawed the police thana in Abhanpur and said that we are going to sit here unless you conduct an inquiry, you take action, and you what is possible in the law, under the law, you take action. And it is only this drastic action by about 55 women that the policemen moved themselves and took any action at all whatsoever. And we contacted the press, media. They were interested in the issue. They wrote, but I felt that it was not as seriously taken as it should have been reflected in the media. It was most, as Sutapa said earlier, trivialized, sensationalized. But, and there was no law that we could, no law relating to witch hunting at that time. So I'm afraid I have to admit that way back in 82, we were ourselves groping as to what action we should take. We consulted lawyers, and then they fought her case. And then the problems that we faced while dealing with her case and dealing with subsequent cases of witch hunting in Chhattisgarh, basically in Raipur district and Mahasamund district, where I am based, that the women are afraid to talk about, to express sympathy or their opinion about the woman who has been accused of being a witch, of practicing witchcraft, and they are afraid because this is like a Damocles sword that hangs above every woman. No woman is free from this threat that if she deserts the beaten path, if she walks a new path, if she raises her voice on these questions, she might be the next woman targeted as one practicing witchcraft. So that kept the women aloof from us. We could tell from their body language that they were in sympathy, but they would not come out openly. Of course, the men in the village, they would, initially they refused to believe that we women from the city would be interested in such a case and would like to do anything about it. They refused to believe, they took us very lightly. But only when they realized that we are serious, they began to make fun of us, they began to ridicule, and it was an unspoken boycott of us. In the village, people would not offer any information, and the woman who in this case, it was her sons who were accusing of practicing witchcraft because they were, so it was not a case of ill health or somebody falling sick or dying or one particular accusation. And when we talked to the sons, they absolutely refused to address our question, and they refused to accept that they were doing this out of their greed, that they want to deny her. And we came across a similar case only recently where a grandmother was attacked by her own sons, a widow, because she owned the house that they lived in. They wanted to get her out of the way so that they can own the house and the fields. And of course, the vested interest, those who had vested interest in these particular cases of witch hunting, they even went to the extent of threatening us that if we came back to the village, if we pursued, they would threaten us. And the Lachkera case is many years later, And during this period of taking up these cases, we were continuously struggling with this question as to how do we encourage women to come out in support. Where is the women's solidarity that we are talking about? And it is a long journey that we undertook. Even in Lachkera village, when we read about it in the newspaper, which was shown in the video film, we went to the village and met with the same fate, that we stayed the whole day waiting for a meeting, knocked at every door, that the women should come for the meeting. And in this village, we were not first comers. They knew us. The women were members of the organization, they supported us, but on this issue, they were afraid to come out in the open, and we had to leave the village without having a meeting. In fact, we had to leave the village and we were threatened by the people. 20 men who were involved in the whole witch hunting event of that particular village, the 3 women. You have heard their stories, so I'm not going to repeat. But what is important is that I would say what was the landmark of our involvement in that Lachkera incidents. Of course, when it was highlighted in the media by Sutapa, and also our constant meetings with the women in the periphery villages, not in Lachkera village, but in all the surrounding villages. We had this meeting. Very subtly we would bring up this issue. And it is only at one meeting where women from 5 villages were present that we were able, and these 3 women were present, that we were able to mobilize or motivate the women to express support and solidarity. During this journey of dealing with cases of witch hunting, we have found that women are witch hunted for health reasons, for property, for political reasons, and of course jealousy, anger, just threatening women that they will be taken care of and dealt with. I would like to say that even though this is a scandalizing reality, as you have said in your main theme, and I would like to inform my friend who raised this question that why have you focused only on Chhattisgarh? It seems that the witchcraft or witch hunting is done only in Chhattisgarh. That is not so. I prepared a paper to present at the World Social Forum that was held in Brazil, I forget the year, and I was presenting a paper on violence against women, and I chose to focus on witch hunting, witchcraft and witch hunting. And since it was an international conference, I wanted the flavor of other countries also. And believe me, I presented this paper as part of an international network called the World March of Women. So I had access to women, members of the World March of Women in other countries, South Asian countries, Latin American countries, and African continent. And I was amazed, surprised, that this custom or this tradition of targeting women is present even in these countries. In the other South Asian countries, in the Latin American countries, African continent also. And there I also learned that they were called soul eaters. And more or less the similar reasons, more or less similar or even more aggressive ways of torturing the woman who was identified as a soul eater. While listening to the speakers in the session before this, there was emphasis that there should be education, should be available, health facilities and roads and accessibility, and then this will die down or can be controlled. But of course I'm not ignoring, I'm not denying that these basic facilities are required even in the remote areas. and this accelerates the custom of witch hunting. But I would also like to point out that we need to challenge the basic patriarchal values that are present in our society, in our families. And it is only when we replace these patriarchal values with values that are more inclusive, give an equal status to man and woman, give equal rights to man and woman, equal sharing of role to both men and women, that we can think of controlling. Somebody also said that Chhattisgarh is one state where we have the law, and this law has been effective. It has been effective in the sense that now people are afraid. Earlier it was considered a sense of power, where the men or a woman would accuse. But now, after the law, there is more awareness and people are afraid of this law and that they would be taken straight by the police. But laws alone are not enough. Legislation alone is not enough. There needs to be a social ethos, a social and a political ethos, where we can create a situation where women do not face this atrocity. I believe my 15 minutes are over. Thank you very much.